Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new League of Legends gameplay. In this one, I'll be talking about the Season 6 Masteries for the mid lane as sort of a guide so you have a better idea of what Masteries you should be taking when going into your games. Now, I'll be going somewhat in depth in this video, but again, there's going to be a lot of champions that can be very specific to that champion in terms of what mastery you would take, but this should still give you a very good idea on which mastery tree you should take, which Keystone mastery is the better option, and all that good stuff. So before we dive into all the different types of champions, I want to quickly go over the major Keystone Masteries and what you should really know about them. So the first one that we do have is going to be, of course, Warlord's Bloodlust. This is probably the best talent overall, though of course, to make it work, you do need critical strike chance. So unless you're an AD carry or someone like Yasuo or Tryndamere, it's probably not very good. But if you are any of those champions, well, it's pretty overpowered. Following that, we have Fervor of Battle. This is great for champions that can stick onto their targets, consistently damaging them with auto attacks, because at level 18 at 10 stacks, you'll have 80 bonus physical damage on every single auto attack. So someone like maybe Zed, maybe Masteries, or even maybe someone like Varus can benefit off of this quite greatly. And then we have Deathfire Touch. Here's a mastery that I think personally is overrated. Make sure to read the tooltip on this mastery very carefully, because the 6 flat damage stays 6 flat damage for every single level. That part does not scale whatsoever. I mean, this mastery definitely has its uses, but the uses aren't very high, especially when you compare to what I think is the better option that we'll talk about soon, Thunderlord's Decree. I've also even talked to Bjergsen to get his thoughts on this as well, and he also has agreed that Thunderlord's Decree does tend to be a better mastery choice in almost all scenarios over Deathfire Touch. Again, the fact that Deathfire Touch has no cooldown, I mean, it can be quite strong on a champion that has a lot of poke or in a very prolonged teamfight, but only very late into the game. And a lot of the poke or harass type abilities, so maybe like a Xerath Q or a Ziggs Q, are AoE type abilities, so that only does half the damage for half the duration. Keep in mind that the average game duration has gone down by a few minutes in this patch, so snowballing is a lot more important. And I guarantee you that in the laning phase, Deathfire Touch is not going to be doing a whole lot. So unless you feel like the game will last a very long time to the point where you'll have either a lot of AP or a lot of AD depending on what champion you're playing, I do think the base damage that Thunderlord's Decree offers, which scales per level, is going to be a lot more important and useful for you, especially in the laning phase, which is really important. Then we have Storm Raider Surge, which I don't think is that bad at all, because it is really strong on burst type champions that are very vulnerable after their rotation of spells and they need to reposition ASAP, so maybe like Talon, Diana, or even someone like Veigar. And the last one is going to be Thunderlord's Decree, which is probably my favorite mastery spell out of every single mastery other than maybe Warlords or Fervor. And the reason for that is because, one, I think it's heavily underrated. I think no one understands the true power of this summoner spell, and also because it works extremely well on burst champions. Now, talking a bit more about this, again, your third attack or spell on an enemy champ shocks the area around them, so it's AoE, dealing 10 damage per level. That's the very important one, and I think a lot of people are missing. This says 10 damage per level, so of course at level 18, that's 180 base damage, while this one, still 6 base damage at level 18, doesn't increase whatsoever. The games don't last as long as they used to, so you want to snowball the laning phase much harder, and this will, I promise you, do more damage in the laning phase than Deathfire will ever do. Also, 20% of your bonus attack damage and 10% of your ability power as magic damage. The scaling is obviously worse, but if you take into account this, considering, you know, it does have the effect on AoE type abilities, it really is almost the same thing. So this is, in my opinion, almost always better, but it is a 30-second cooldown while this has no cooldown, which is the only bad part, I guess. But in terms of the value that you're getting from the damage that you're getting from comparable of the both masteries, this one is better in almost every single way, and you just gotta trust me on that. So now that we got all that stuff out of the way, let's talk about specific champion masteries. So I'm going to group different types of champions in different groups, and I'll give you guys a page that you probably want to run on those champions. So the first group we'll talk about is going to be the AP ranged poke or sustained damage dealing type casters. So this includes champions like Xerath, Ziggs, Brand, Cassiopeia, Anivia, Malzahar, Azir, Orianna, Ahri, Lux, champions like that. So almost always you want to get sorcery for sure, because of course it fits these champions much better than attack speed. Next, you can either go between Feast or Double-Edged Sword. Now, I don't think Feast is amazing overall as a summoner spell. It's a 20-second cooldown. You have to remember that. That's not very good. So almost always Double-Edged Sword I think is better. Then you have either Vampirism or Natural Talent. Again, don't forget, Natural Talent will only give you 15 AP at level 18, not that much, while this will give you a whole whopping 2% lifesteal and Spell Vamp, which I think is better overall. But I think this isn't necessarily bad either. So you can really go any of these. Neither of them are wrong or right, but for most scenarios, I probably will choose Vampirism. Following that, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. If you're feeling really risky, if you're going to roam a lot or if you're going to do a lot of stuff around the map, Bounty Hunter is easily better. However, if you're playing a champion like Ahri, like Xerath, maybe like Lux, someone who has a built-in CC within their kit and they work well off of that CC, Oppressor will be overall just a safer, more guaranteed summoner, or rather mastery. Following that, you of course want Piercing Thoughts because you are playing magic AP type champions, and then you go for the Deathfire Touch. Now this is the page that you'll see most players do for the Ferocity for AP type champions that have a lot of poke and sustained damage like the ones I mentioned. And then of course you want to most likely go into one of these bad boys here. So you can definitely go into something like Savagery, you can go into Secret Stash, Merciless, and then Dangerous Game. I mean, you can go this if you want. Meditation and Bandit is horrible, but I mean, I do think these are just better in almost every single way. This one doesn't matter too much. Secret Stash is probably better, but Runic Affinity is also just as good. Can't really go wrong, just depends on what you're preferring. But I like Secret Stash for the extra lane sustain. And then you can definitely go Wanderer or Savagery, but I like Savagery more just to ensure you get the last hits, because last hitting sometimes with the auto attacks of mages can be very difficult. So again, this is the page you'll see most players run at the moment, because again, not everyone understands just how poor, in my opinion, Deathfire touches and just how strong Thunderlord's Decree can really be. So the page that I would recommend honestly over this for most scenarios, even though this can work on these champions, is instead going to be this, followed by this, this, and then Thunderlord's Decree. Again, the games aren't lasting as long as they used to. The overall game time is much lower. It's much more of a snowball-y game. So winning the laning phase is just so much more important now. And this, I promise you, will help you win the laning phase. Then you can go, of course, in the Ferocity tree, get Sorcery, get Double-Edged Sword, get some of that Vampirism, or you can get Natural Talent. Doesn't matter too much. And then Oppressor or Bounty Hunter. Just depends on the kit that you're running of the champion. Next, let's talk about the next group of champions. So AP Burst Casters and Assassins. So maybe like Veigar, maybe like someone like a Syndra, LeBlanc, Diana, Annie, and even Twisted Fate, because I do consider him more of an Assassin Burst type champion than a Mage, just because of how much burst he really does have and how he can flank the lines. And he doesn't have the best poke, not like a Xerath or a Ziggs, because his Q can be easily avoided. So I feel like he fits in this area a bit more. So the point of these champions is the fact that they rely on one rotation of spells. So like a Veigar, maybe even a Syndra, Diana, Annie, LeBlanc. They burst the champion down with a full rotation, so they use everything in just a matter of 2 seconds. They don't dish out consistent poke damage like a Xerath or Ziggs. So the cunning Keystone Masteries, I think, are much better than the Ferocity ones in almost every single way, especially considering how I think underpowered Deathfire Touch really is. So let's talk about how we want to put in the mastery points for these champions. So Savagery again isn't too bad, but if you're playing someone like TF, then you probably want to get Wanderer. Again, it depends on where you're playing, but Annie and TF, Wanderer, every other champion most likely Savagery. Following that, you can most likely go Secret Stash, though again, Runic Affinity is not a bad choice. Then you almost always want to get these two. Chances are you want to get Intelligence on these champions as well. And then you have Thunderlord's Degree as the final one. Again, it works on all these champions quite well, and I think it works on every single AP champion splendidly. But again, it does come down to what you're looking for. Are you looking to just simply burst down the opponent and just complement that burst with Thunderlord's crazy base damage? Or do you think that your kit has enough damage in the champion himself, and then after you kill the champion, maybe like with Diana, maybe with like TF, maybe Syndra or Veigar, you know, sometimes you'll have to go in very deep to get the kill, and then once you do that burst damage, because every single champion I just mentioned will be able to do that burst damage, you'll be able to simply proc this passive instantly, get that huge move speed, and then run out of there before you can get bursted down yourself, or it just helps you reposition yourself and continue on the chase. But then following that, you want to go into Sorcery, get the Feast, or rather get the Sorcery, get the Double-Edged Sword, get the probably Vampirism, maybe Natural Talent, again, doesn't matter too much. And then if you're playing Veigar, Oppressor could be really good. If you're playing Syndra or TF, Oppressor, not bad. If you're playing someone like LeBlanc, it could definitely go for Bounty Hunter, because you could probably roam and get more kills. But again, you can't really go wrong with either of these, it just depends on the kit. And then you also have champions like Echo and Akali, which you can easily go Deathfire Touch, but I still would recommend Thunderlord's Decree, because again, the intelligence is nice, and overall just the amount of stuff that you're getting from this mastery is better than Deathfire Touch on almost every single AP champion, because you only get 20% of your AP on this mastery, so you're relying on the scaling only. Next, we'll go into the AD Assassins, so Zed, Talon, and Yasuo. Now, each of them, in my opinion, require a specific mastery page because they're all different in how they play. But for Zed, I would most likely actually go Sorcery, but you can definitely go Fury as well. It just depends on what kind of build you're going. Are you going for the attack speed with Fervor? Well, you want to go probably Fury. If you're going for Deathfire and going for just a raw AD spell damage type Zed, so just not a lot of attack speed, but a lot of base AD, Deathfire Touch is definitely better. So assuming you're going for the attack speed build, you want to go in the Fury. Definitely you want to get one of these bad boys. You want to get Vampirism because this only gives you 10 AD at level 18. Very negligible. So you get the Vampirism. Probably the Bounty Hunter, since you're an assassin, you should be roaming and getting kills in every lane. Following that, the Battering Blows, because you obviously don't want magic penetration. And then Fervor of Battle for Zed. Again, Deathfire Touch isn't too bad, but you want to go into Sorcery for that instead, because that's focusing more on spell damage. But it doesn't matter too much. I mean, they're both pretty strong, though I do like Fervor of Battle personally a lot more with the attack speed. But if you're not getting attack speed, Deathfire Touch is pretty good. And then you can go for Savagery as well, so Wanderer to help you roam. Secret Stash for the extra flasks and elixirs. Then you want to go Merciless, and then you want to go Dangerous Game. For someone like Talon, however, this is where you want to spec into the Cunning Tree, because Storm Raider Surge or Thunderlord's Decree are both very strong talents on Talon. So you want to get probably Wanderer again to help you kind of roam around a bit more. You don't need that extra help to CS because you have a lot of damage on your auto attacks to begin with. Secret Stash is quite good here. Merciless, Dangerous Game. Probably Intelligence, because Talon does work quite well with CDR. The more CDR, the better on Talon, in my opinion. And then Thunderlord's Decree to help you even do more damage, like any of the other assassins I mentioned earlier. Or, I think this is actually quite good on Talon, and even the icon kind of looks like Talon himself. You can go for Storm Raider Surge, because once you go in with Talon, once you burst the enemy ADC in the backline, for instance, you use every single ability to get that job done, and chances are you might have to use both parts of your ultimate to deal the damage. So you're left in a really bad position, so once you kill and burst the ADC, this can help you with a burst of move speed to simply get out of the fray, not have the enemy team react to kill you, and then run to a safe position, or maybe continue to chase. And then last but not least, we have Yasuo, which I think should be somewhat self-explanatory. You want to go in Fury, you want to go Double-Edged Sword, Vampirism, Bounty Hunter, or Oppressor, doesn't really matter too much. I like the Bounty Hunter, Battering Blows, and without question, Warlord's Bloodlust. Easily one of the best masteries in the game right now, just how much it offers is absolutely insane. The fact that it heals you for 15% of the damage dealt is crazy. Perfect mastery for Yasuo, no question about it. However, I do think Fervor of Battle is really strong on Yasuo as well, because he is the definition of sticking on your target and constantly wailing at them with your auto attacks. So if this one ever gets nerfed, this is definitely going to be a really good talent on Yasuo. And then following this, you have honestly two choices, either going into the Cunning Tree or the Resolve Tree. So if you were to go into the Cunning Tree, you would obviously put 5 points in Wanderer, Secret Stash, Merciless, and Dangerous Game. But going into the Resolve Tree isn't too bad either, because you get that Summoner spell cooldown, and you also get a bonus to your shield from your passive. I personally would almost always go in Cunning, but again, the option is there in the Resolve Tree, so 5 points in the left talon, Tough Skin, Runic Armor, and then you want to follow it up with Insight for that 15% Summoner cooldown. And then next we'll talk about the ADC mids, so for instance, someone like Quinn, Varus, or Corki. So for Quinn, very similar page to Yasuo, 5 points in here, Double-Edged Sword, Vampirism, Bounty Hunter, because you'll be roaming a lot, so you should get this quite soon and quite quick. Battering Blows, and most likely Warlord's Bloodlust. If you don't go for the crit items, which you probably should, to be honest, after the Yomus, then you can go for Fervor, but again, Warlord's Bloodlust is probably the better choice. Then you can get Wanderer for the extra move speed to roam faster, followed by most likely Secret Stash or Runic Affinity. Again, doesn't matter too much. But then, instead of going further down in this tree, I actually like to go in the Resolve Tree, put 5 points in here, and then also get the Explorer for the extra move speed in the river, so you can roam from mid to top or mid to bottom much faster with your ultimate. Following Quinn, we have Varus, where Deathfire can definitely work quite well, because Deathfire is actually not too bad when it comes to AD champions. 50% of your bonus attack damage. However, the only bad thing is the fact that Varus's Q, your main poke ability, is an AoE type damaging ability, so the damage on Deathfire is halved. But either way, this is how it can most likely look. If you're going for the attack speed Varus and you're going for a slightly more ADC type build, Fury is really good, else Sorcery is probably the better option. Get double-edged sword, vampirism most likely, but you can probably get natural talent, though I do recommend this over that and almost always. Probably oppressor because you have your slow and your ultimate. Then you can go in for the battering blows, and you can definitely get away for the harass with the Q with Deathfire Touch. If again you're going for more attack speed oriented build, get this instead, and then get the Fervor of Battle. Or if you're going for the crit Varus, which you probably shouldn't in the mid lane, but you could, then you boom, get the Warlord's Bloodlust instead. And then the rest of the ones you can get maybe Wanderer, you can maybe get Savagery, but probably Wanderer. Doesn't really matter too much. This helps you a bit to get back into the the game faster from base and whatnot, but either one is not too bad. Secret Stash, and then Merciless, and then Dangerous Game. And the final mastery and champion we'll talk about is going to be Hybrid or AP Corki in the mid lane. Again, another example where you can definitely get Deathfire because he does poke quite a bit. But I still think Thunderlord's Decree is just a better mastery overall for AP type champions over Deathfire in almost every single way possible. So, I mean, you can make the assumption yourself of how you want to do that, but it can look something like this if you decide to go for Deathfire. Get the Sorcery, get the Double-Edged Sword, get the Vampirism. Most likely you want to get something like Bounty Hunter because you have no built-in CC in Corki's kit. Go for the Piercing Thoughts and then Deathfire Touch. But I do not recommend this as much, so instead you can go for 5 in Sorcery, Double-Edged Sword, Vampirism, and then maybe something like Bounty Hunter, and then go for the rest of the points in here instead. So something like Savagery potentially, maybe Wander if you really want to, doesn't matter too much, Secret Stash, Merciless, Dangerous Game, Intelligence, and Thunderlord's Decree. But that's about it for this video, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. If you have any questions, ask me down below. I hope this video did help you have a better idea of how you should do your masteries. And again, hope you enjoyed it. Definitely hit the like button if you did, subscribe if you did not yet, and I'll see you for the next video. Peace.